Hello guys, thanks for joining me. Today I thought I'd make a book review of a book that I've recently bought, and it's Blitzmädchen. And as it says there, die Geschichte der Helferinnen der deutschen Wehrmacht im Zweiten Weltkrieg, which basically translates as an account of the female auxiliaries of the German Wehrmacht during the Second World War. It was written by a author by the name of Franz Siedler. And it says in the back here that he was a professor of social and military history at the Bundeswehr Academy in Munich. So I bought this book recently, and it cost me £2. It's secondhand, obviously. It's quite an old book. I was a bit surprised when I got it that it's actually 1979 copyright. So it's a good 45 years old. It was originally sold, according to a little sticker here, at the History Bookshop in London, N11. And there's a price up here, £15.75. So I'm not sure whether that's the price originally back in 1979. If it is, it does seem quite high. My guess is probably a second-hand book that was sold in the bookshop at a later date. But anyhow, it cost me £2. And as I said, the title is Blitzmädchen, which basically translates as Lightning Girls. So it basically deals with the history of the introduction of female auxiliary helpers into the Wehrmacht during the Second World War period. It's in two parts, basically. The first part goes into the history of the women and also the setup of the organizations, maps and what have you in here. And the second part is a series of photographs. Anyhow, we'll just go on. So as I say, the book is in German, but I do read German. So it starts off with the role of the female in the National Socialist Nazi Society of the Third Reich. Then it goes on about the introduction of female auxiliaries into the Wehrmacht. It just deals with the Wehrmacht, that is the Luftwaffe, Heer, and Kriegsmarine. There were female auxiliaries with the SS, but these are not covered in this book here. So as I say, just Luftwaffe, Kriegsmarine and Heer. There's a little diagram of the insignia worn by the helpers. They were originally called Nachrichtenhelferinnen, which is basically communications auxiliary. And they dealt with communications within the Wehrmacht to begin with. And as you can see, these different badges for different roles that the women undertook. So Nachrichtenpersonal, Flak, Luftwaffe here, and various other things. But you can see the lightning motif in the insignia, and that is the reason that they were called Blitzmädchen or Lightning Girls. So basically, starts off with their duties, the way they were housed, education, training, the uniforms that they were issued with. It's actually quite an interesting book here, Discipline and Morale. Eventually, the women were moved on to more frontline kind of roles, occupied with the air defense of the German nation. So Waffengebrauch is the use of weapons. And then at the end goes Kriegsende und Gefangenschaft, which translates as the end of the war, and POW status. So it goes into quite a lot of detail on the organization of the auxiliaries. There are diagrams here, and then the various roles that they took. As I said, they were Nachrichten Helferinnen to begin with, so communications workers. So the first roles were with the Feldmeldedienst. And then it goes on to the later part of the war when they were involved in air defense. So we've got a diagram here of a typical British bomber stream with diversionary targets and the like over Germany. And then we got the Jägerleitdienst, the actual defense of the Reich. So we got these various maps here showing the, for example, radar units based along the coastal line to detect any approaching enemy aircraft coming across, and then various flak areas here, which were heavily defended, like the Ruhr there, for example. And then we got a couple of maps here showing the layout of the air defenses over Germany from 1943 and late war. So you got your various divisions here and the various code names for the areas. We've got a diagram here of a typical flak battery. Flak batteries usually had 6 to 8 guns, sometimes more, sometimes less, but it gives you the control layout from the control units here to the actual guns here. So it's actually quite an interesting book. Gives you photographs of the actual equipment being used by the women. So we got range finders here to determine the range, height, and position of incoming aircraft. And you got the big calculator. This is a Kommandogerät 40, and these machines calculated the basically the information that was put into the machine was passed on to the gunners. So the women basically operated the searching equipment, trying to determine, as I said, the height, orientation of flights and what have you. And that was passed on to the gunners, who tended to be mostly males, Luftwaffe, Hitlerjugend, and the like. Got a map of Germany here showing the concentration of heavy points for flak artillery. So all the big cities here, for example, in the Ruhr and other places, were all kind of surrounded by flak batteries. Got a diagram of a searchlight here, and layout of a typical searchlight battery. The Germans also used barrage balloons for protecting their airspace from low-flying aircraft, just as the British had done at the Battle of Britain and after. So we got that. This is a diagram of a fog-making machine, so that is for basically a smoke screen to protect targets from the air. And then it goes on to the photographic evidence here, which is quite interesting. Quite a lot of photographs here. And it shows the very beginning, got these two women here just about to join up the service. They're getting their uniforms there. Health checks. And then the kind of typical accommodations that they were living with. So a lot of very interesting photographs. You got a group of Blitzmädchen here, and I would imagine that is Paris. There's a pub in the background called Old England, so I would imagine I don't think that's probably the Channel Islands, probably Paris or somewhere. And it gives you a good introduction to the uniforms that they were wearing, and just a basic day-to-day life that they had. So getting mail, receiving mail here, meal times, health service, leadership. You got their lockers here, which are exactly the same as their male counterparts. Off-duty entertainment, sports, skiing there, as you can see. And of course, the female helpers didn't just serve in Germany; they also occupied the Wehrmacht into the various occupied territories, most of the western ones, France and the like. They didn't really go to Russia or anything like that, but Poland and Denmark and what have you. You got the two here in Norway, just I'm standing there at the Arctic Circle there, as it says. Off duty, here we got two of them walking down a street in Paris. I like all the little detail here, like the Soldatenheim, for kind of a rest and recuperation home for soldiers. You got the women here with their raincoats, rain capes, and again off duty somewhere. These three helpers here have received the Kriegsverdienstkreuz, second class with combat swords. So that is them with their newly decorated medals there. U-boat crew coming in, getting their flowers from the communication auxiliaries there. these pictures here of German female POWs. So you get these POWs in a British POW camp. That's a British NCO, female NCO there. And then you got other pictures here. Ehe und Familie is marriage and family life. So they obviously met people, fell in love, got married, ended up having kids. And then we go into the various different roles that the women did. So as I said, the first one were communication. So we got Meldedienst here, and got photographs of the women here at the switchboards, so telephone switchboards. That is the first role that the women undertook on arriving into the Wehrmacht. We also got Fernschreibedienst, so that is basically teletypists issuing orders to be sent out to the units in the field. And it shows all the equipment that were being used at the time. We got the teletext tapes and the radio units and the like. It's quite interesting here. Funkdienst is radio operators, so you got these Morse code operators down here. You got the women here being taught how to use the radio equipment there. Flugmeldedienst is basically preparing for incoming attacks. So you got these women here in central stations, and they are receiving incoming calls from various observers around the area that would be notifying the central command here of any incoming airplanes. They would plot the courses of the airplanes, the heights, directions, orientation, and the like. As you can see, these women here are plotting the various incoming flights here. They're plotted onto these maps. So these are all Luftwaffe personnel here, and you got these big maps here, and they would be marking down the routes of the incoming bomber streams. So again, all these women here at the telephone taking in the information as it comes in, and then after the information is brought in, centralized, it goes out to the various fighter units. So that is the next bit here. The information goes out to the fighters, who then go up and attack the incoming bombers. Women were also involved in weather forecasts. And then we got Flakwagendienst und Schießauswertung, so that is the women involved in the actual flak units. So we got a typical layout here, a photograph of a flak battery. You got all these flak guns, 88mm flak guns. As I said before, the actual guns themselves were initially all operated by men or boys, Hitlerjugend or Luftwaffe personnel. Towards the end of the war, some women were involved in the actual firing of the guns, but it was mostly men's work. But the women were involved in things like using the searchlights, for example. So you got Flak-Scheinwerferdienst, so women operating the searchlights. So you got the crews here. The searchlight required quite a big crew. I mean, we've got about 9 or 10 women here operating one searchlight. So you got them in action at nighttime here. During the daytime, they would be repairing, cleaning the equipment, putting on the covers for keeping the glass clean and secure. And we got these women here with rangefinders, so they would be trying to find the range, as I said, the height, direction of the incoming bombers, and that information would be passed on to the searchlights for them to operate effectively. And here we got more of these calculating machines. So we've got two different ones here. We've got a single one here with the single optic binoculars, and this one here has two. So these women would be, as I said, determining the range, the height, and everything else, and the machines would then calculate the trajectories for the flak batteries. So you can see the dials here, for example. For some reason, there's no photographs of the radars being used here. I guess the radar units weren't being operated by women, but the women did operate the listening post that were used before the radar came into widespread use. So you got these kind of contraptions here that picked up the faint sounds of incoming planes. So you got these women here blitzing for the bombers here, trying to determine the position where they're coming from. But as I said, that was largely superseded by radar. The British did the same thing. They had the same kind of setups at the beginning of the war. And like the British, the Germans used barrage balloons. So you get these photographs here of women operating the balloons, setting them up. These were used for low-flying aircraft to prevent low-flying aircraft doing ground attacks. Women were also involved in the Fliegertechnischer Dienst, which is basically operating the machinery, fixing, repairing planes and the like. Got a big, gigantic cargo plane in the back here, the Messerschmitt Gigant. Stabsdienst is basically administration work. The women were also involved in horses, training horses. You have to remember that even up until the last day of the Reich, the Germans were heavily dependent on horses. They weren't just all trucks and the like. So there was a need to train horses for the services, and women did that role. Fallschirmparkdienst is packing parachutes, and initially for the paratroopers, but later on for the Air Force. Ordnance und Küchenhelfsdienst basically means ordnance and catering. And then air protection and fire service, so Luftschutz und Feuerwehrdienst. So I got these women here being involved in the local air defense, organizing emergency services and the like following a bombing raid. And they got a series of photographs here showing women in chemical suits wearing their gas masks, doing a practice clean out after a chemical attack. So they got their helmets, they got their gas masks on, they got their rubber suits on, and they're scrubbing the area here, cleaning it of chemicals. And we got a woman here with a bugle, and that was because following air raids, or even before, sometimes the electricity cut off, so they didn't have electric air raid sirens, so you had these women here going around with bugles or handheld sirens. And lastly, we've got two photographs of women involved in the fire service. And there you have it. That's it. So just a very interesting book. And I was quite happy to find this book here. As I say, it's quite an old book, but it has got a lot of quite relevant information. If you have an interest in the Third Reich and in the war from the German point of view, it's quite an interesting book. And I do read German, so it's quite interesting to actually read the book in its original form and use it all the German terminology that they would have used in the wartime and things like that. So I guess I'll leave it at that. Hope you enjoyed that video. Hope it's not too long, but that's my little review of the Blitzmädchen. As always, thanks for watching, and bye for now.